any new founder that's spending time in things that are not sales or lead generation is probably wasting their time if they don't have a good business yet.
Welcome to the DesignRush podcast. I'm your host, Kia Johnson. Today's guest is Noemi Kis, a serial entrepreneur, AI enthusiast, and founder of Future Proof Founders. She built a 7-figure business with just 2 people and now helps non-technical founders use automation, AI, and content to scale smarter without burning out. In episode 105, Noemi shares why lead generation and sales should come first, how to avoid the trap of automating chaos, and the simple content strategies that helped her grow an audience of 145,000 plus on LinkedIn. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watch on YouTube. Hi, Noemi. Welcome to the DesignRush podcast. It's so wonderful having you here with us today. Noemi, I want us to get stuck into sort of the core crux of the conversation right now and find out a little bit more about you. I mean, you have done what so many founders dream of. You've built a 7-figure business with just 2 people, no full-time tech team, and a lean automation stack. You've helped thousands of non-technical founders do the same through your community, your newsletter, and also your content. For someone who's now listening, and who's possibly overwhelmed by all of the tools out there, where would you say one should actually start?
It's such a great question. Honestly, it is so important. I feel like this is the make or break for new founders because there's three keys to success in a business, right? It's your lead generation, then how you're converting those leads to customers, and then fulfillment of those customers. You have happy customers. And so the most important is lead gen at first, because if you don't have leads, you don't have sales and you don't have fulfillment. So I would say get that dialed in, that it's consistently generating leads. And if you're not doing it yourself because it's too manual, that's the first thing to automate so that you can get those leads. The next one is sales. So make sure you fix sales. And I wouldn't even worry until you have those 2 dialed in. I wouldn't even worry about fulfillment because you don't have any customers yet. You don't have admin. Don't worry about finances. Obsess over lead gen and sales and dial those in first.
You're an entrepreneur, right? So you've built things from the ground up. Would you then say that these are the tools that you would start with and then get these to handle that for you? I mean, are there any other tools that you personally use to run your business?
Yes. So we started off with custom things. So there's Airtable. Airtable is an incredibly easy CRM-like system where you can customize it exactly to what you need, and it also connects to automations really well. Think of it like a custom CRM. So we started with that. We just started putting all our SOPs and workflows into Airtable, and when Zapier and Make came out, then we connected other tools to it so that a human doesn't have to go into a CRM and manually take a name or an email. It would transfer automatically to other parts of our business. That was one of the tools. Now I like Make a lot, and I've been also playing around with Lindy and other AI agents tools, which have been really amazing. One example is you can create in N8N. It's N8N. You can create an AI agent that will actually pull all your sales data. You can connect it to your Google Drive so that you have a chat where any team member can say, what were our sales for last week? Or what do we have coming up? Anything that's in your Google Drive, you can turn it into a chat, which makes it really easier. You don't have to ask your accountant, what was our sales? Or you don't have to pull up a KPI report. You just ask. It's so much easier.
So if I was an organization and I'm concerned about maybe losing that human side of my organization, how would I then balance and merge that with using these tools? I mean, you'd be able to, I'm sure, speak from an entrepreneurial side. You help many businesses with this. Where would I start? What would I do?
I would think about what makes your customers happy. How are you retaining those customers on the fulfillment side? And I would make sure that whatever is making your customers happy, keep that human. So, for example, you may be able to automate lead gen to qualify leads. But then once a lead is qualified, you don't want to then maybe a salesperson comes in, a human touch comes in then, because now you want your first brand impression to be a high touch, concierge service like an agency would. So that's how I would think about it.
Is there a step-by-step process that you use when you are sitting with, someone who's wanting to get into the market, perhaps a very small business, guy or girl really trying to get their organization off the ground?
Yes. So the step-by-step process to start a business automating for the first time is I would first have the founder take an inventory of all the tasks they're doing. Usually it's a solo founder at first. Maybe there's a few team members. But do an inventory, how many hours are you spending on what task each week? And then you may find that, and then what I would do then is add up all the tasks of how many hours you're doing and which task is something that is repetitive and most manual, that's taking up a lot of your time. That's not crucial. So you may be spending a lot of time on customer fulfillment, but if you're delivering a service and you're the main founder, you can't automate that you have to do that at first, most of it. But if you are spending time going through leads or, answering emails to qualify people or any kind of administrative entering, that's where I would start. And another important task I would do is when those tasks, so you see a workflow, I would do it manually first and make sure it's automated, because a lot of founders, we want to grow fast and we just do things really fast. So we don't think about optimizing how we do things. So there's no process around it. So first, you don't want to just automate a chaotic process. You want to actually make sure that it's the best process it can be, and then put a workflow around it and say, this is how it's going to be done.
You were talking about, in essence, like a leader, for example, just going gung-ho into everything. But I'm sure that there's some other mistakes that you've seen new founders do in your experience when they initially try to start automating in their business.
I'll go from experience. So I know when I was a new founder, I looked at my business like my baby. And whenever I would hand it off either to a person or to a tool, I would then take it back because I'm like, you know what, it's not optimal. So I would just keep taking back things on my plate because I thought nobody's going to do it as well as I am. And it's true, right? When you delegate, you have to know that. But if you want to do everything perfectly and you want to do it yourself, you're not going to grow. You're going to be a bottleneck. So for me, it's delegating, but really handing it off. So I think that's one of the biggest ones. The second one is they're maybe fussing around what to automate or what AI tool to use when they could use a Google Sheet because they're just starting out. So the simplicity over fancy tech at first is what I actually would recommend.
I guess then in a way that was also help to avoid, building complexity that slows you down if you take that kind of approach. And you're speaking now to automation and delegation. So I kind of want to touch on that because, where is that line? Where do you draw that line? If I'm, for example, a digital business founder, say I've only got a team of 2 to 5, what do I automate? What do I then outsource? What would I delegate to humans? I mean, how exactly would I be drawing that line practically, would you say?
Yeah, I think this has changed in the last year so much. the way you would answer this question is completely different, since we now have AI agents and AI tools that do things so well. What I would say is, let's say you have so for me, let's say I'm a LinkedIn creator. So one of my businesses to create content that gets leads, right? So that's part of the business. So for that, you usually need a content writer, and you need a graphic designer, and you need someone to post the content and manage the comments, something like that, right? So it used to be that I would write all the content, I would create all the graphics in Canva, and then I would post. But then at first I hired somebody to write content for me, which is quite expensive. It's a copywriter, right? So that would be like the first step. And then second, you would write a custom GPT that writes in your voice, and then maybe a virtual assistant can manage using the GPT to write content in your voice based on your strategy. So now all you're doing is strategy, and you have reduced your headcount because you don't have a copywriter. And then now with the image generation of ChatGPT, you don't need a graphic designer. So it's incredible how content, and then there's AI tools where you can log into your LinkedIn account and do comments and things like that. But you can literally outsource now so much to tools. Even then 2 years ago, you would have had to have a little bit of a team.
Mm-hmm. I want to speak a little bit to LinkedIn, because I know this is kind of like your little happy space. Can you expand a bit more on that? I mean, where did you start, like, really growing, LinkedIn itself and just becoming this absolute connoisseur in it? Can you take us through that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my business that I put a lot of time in automating. So therefore, I no longer need to spend a lot of time and hours on it. So I found myself having free time, and I'm always have many ideas on what to try. So I saw content as a huge opportunity to get distribution to a niche audience through organic content. And I started by posting. I had no idea how to write for LinkedIn. I had no idea what content to create. And so I started slow, and I didn't have any likes or comments at first, like 1 or 2. And then as I started learning more about LinkedIn, and I got a LinkedIn coach who taught me what works, what doesn't. Then I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I just said, tell me how the algorithm works. And then I obsessed over figuring out how to grow on LinkedIn, how to get followers, how to get leads, how to grow a personal brand. And now, after 115,000 followers, in the last year, 170,000 people looked at my profile, which is crazy. How could you have that many people look at your profile except through content?
But clearly, you're doing it right. You found the recipe. And, we speak a lot, especially in previous podcasts, about just, leaders having a personal brand and ensuring that they not only have the organizational brand, but they have to ensure that their personal brand is a space that they really focus, and making sure that both are like reflective of each other, because that's the spaces that you are in. If I were a leader, is there sort of any tips or tricks that you'd be able to share with me within the B2B space? Like if I'm trying to generate some nice leads, from LinkedIn itself, be able to get within that B2B framework. But I don't know how exactly I need to express my brand. Like, where do I start? What do I do if I want to create that on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I love that question. So I would think about even B2B as they are also people. So when you write content, you're writing for people's emotion and psychology and what's going to grab a person at a company is the same thing that's going to grab a B2C sort of individual person. So I like to say the content is your inbound. So you do top of funnel content and you get a lot of eyes on your content. So I like to mix it up. So let's say do maybe 1 or 2 personal stories about your journey as a founder, or your maybe even personal stories of how you overcome something. So your audience can get to know you and follow you for that reason because they resonate. And then I would do educational posts, a framework that you used or step by step. And then I also like to do 1 or 2 posts that are maybe not as niche for your audience, but more will get eyeballs on your account. So like a really inspirational quote, or and if you have a good mix of that, you'll get that inbound traffic from your content. And of course, you have to have a funnel. So your content then has to go to your profile where people can follow you, but also enter your funnel, which can be a newsletter, it can be your book a call, whatever that is. So that's how I would think about it.
If, for example, you were to look at, in your experience, where you would say founders waste the most time in the early stages, like of their business, what would you say to that? Like, have you seen anything any examples you can share with us?
Any new founder that's spending time in things that are not sales or lead generation is probably wasting their time if they don't have a good business yet. I've seen founders where they're tweaking workflows and they're getting fancy CRMs and they're, and it's so, because I love automation, I love AI tools, it's kind of controversial to say that, like, what do you mean I shouldn't automate? And it is actually really important to actually do the hard work at first. AI is not going to actually reach out to your customers and say, is this your pain point? Is my solution actually going to work for you? You can automate that stuff. You as the founder have to do it. And anything you're doing that's not getting you customers or perfecting your offer on why they're not converting is a waste of time. And once you have the problem of, oh my gosh, I have too many customers now, I can't fulfill them, that's a good problem to have. Then you start automating the fulfillment part. Yeah, and then once you automate once you have the problem of too many customers because you've done a great job of dialing in lead gen and sales, then what's going to happen is you're the founder and now you're not going to have time to do lead gen because you're all with customers. And then your leads are going to drop. So then you're going to be like, oh, let me jump back into lead gen. And you're going to that's one of the mistakes I see is now I don't have time because I stopped doing this. So that's when you want to automate and put in a VA or some kind of person to help you with what you were doing in lead gen so that doesn't fall off.
Would you then say then that would be the key to being sustainable within my business when I reach that point, so that it's not this thing of like you said now, it's a mistake that you see people make, like jumping right back on that side where, as a matter of fact, you need to get that VA to actually, be running that system. So would you say then that is a more sustainable way then for your business for the way forward?
I think so. If you can systematize lead gen and sales, and there are no holes in it, like you already figured out that it's working, and I know you have to tweak it, like a lead gen channel may work for a little while and then you have to switch it up because it's going to stop working. So you have to be the strategic behind it. You can't just hand it off to somebody and say, do it. You have to be the brains behind it. But then but I do think it's really important to automate that and then do the fulfillment work so you have happy customers. But then once you get too many customers and there you become a bottleneck as well, then you have to automate that part so that you can actually move into other parts of the business and focus on strategy and growth.
So I want to move on to my next question right now, and just find it from you. I mean, There's so many tools that are out there that's promising results. So if you were to be personally evaluating which one is actually worth your time, how do you go about doing that?
I like to actually sign up for a free version of the tool and test it out. I'll sign up for a free trial. I'll literally test it out and I'll basically tell my community or the people on LinkedIn, like, hey, I tried this, waste of time if they're not quite there yet. Or this one I love and highly recommend. So I love to try everything and then you don't get stuck in the hype of things. You know what you need and what works and what doesn't.
Totally, totally. Are there any red flags that like founders should look out for when they are choosing tools? I mean, you're talking about doing a trial, so automatically I'm thinking now, what if there isn't a trial and it's trying to force you to like sign on and pay immediately? Would that be considered a red flag?
I mean, yes and no. So if you already know somebody else who showed you that they're using that workflow and it's working for them and it fits into your needs, then maybe it's worth it, you know? But I think more of a red flag for founders is actually when they're trying tools that are not helping them in their own goals. Like I'm growing a business where I just need to focus on getting customers right now. Then why are you playing with tools that are not relevant to that? Then that's just a distraction.
A lot of people, they hear lean automation, they think that it means cutting corners, but really what we're talking about is actually simple low-code systems that replace, those time-consuming tasks. We've been talking a lot about this now in our conversation. So how would you say can founders actually use that to improve the customer experience, build a stronger brand, especially in the more high-touch B2B spaces? I know that we kind of like discussed a little bit of this earlier on, but it would be great if you could kind of unpack this a little bit more. Yeah.
So what's great about now with this AI tools is you can actually focus on building a brand much more cheaply than you used to be. You'd have to hire a branding agency and it would cost tens of thousands of dollars to have a real brand and website. And now you can do that with ChatGPT. You can create a brand guideline for yourself with using the strategic thinking models, and then you can even use the image generation to get your logo and your ads and your copy for your website. So everything really can be done really pretty cheaply right now on the brand side. For high ticket items, I think it is more important to have I think it's more important for the high ticket items to have a brand and to even have a personal brand on LinkedIn. Some of the tools that I like to use is Gamma. I don't know if you've heard of Gamma, but Gamma AI is a really great way to create instant presentations that you can give to a client in your own brand. And it's pretty amazing. There's also called Lovable. And Lovable.dev is a really great tool where you can create lead magnets and little prototypes with prompts only. So as a non-technical person, you can literally go prompt and create an ROI calculator for your lead magnets, things like that. So I would use those kinds of things to drive customer experience.
I'm sure that along the way, in your experience and within your life and just especially with your journey, that you've come across, someone or some people that have meant so much to you and have actually shaped who you are and where you are today. So one part of my question is, who are the three mentors that you would say that have actually shaped you into where you are currently? And then the second part of my question is, who's that one founder or creator that you admire within the system space? I mean, someone that's maybe doing meaningful work and actually deserves like way more attention.
Okay, so the three sections of people that have shaped me would be, one is family. So my just learning from family, the way I grew up, I was born and raised in Hungary, and it's very family oriented, and just a lot of resilience coming to America and learning entrepreneurial skills. And so that taught me a lot of how my parents came here. And then next is when I started reaching out to mentors when I became an entrepreneur first. So I had a very specific business coach that have helped me. Then I had a mentor from YPO that have helped me. And they're people that I looked up to that were 2 or 3 steps ahead of me, that gave me a vision of where I could be. And then the third type of people are peers who are alongside of me, kind of cheering me on. I'm cheering them on. We're kind of on the same path. So it's not lonely to be an entrepreneur because you have those people next to you. So those are the 3 people that have shaped who I am.
Noemi, thank you so much for sharing your insights here on the DesignRush podcast. Is there any parting words that you have for any of our B2B, folk out there, just in terms of maybe like advice or anything like that you'd like to give them?
Yeah, I think it's really important to think out of the box. So there's always things that have always been done a certain way. And now with AI and these tools, everything's being disrupted. And I feel like it's very important nowadays to think outside the box and think ahead. What is the world going to look like in 6 months, in 1 year? And how can I take steps to be future focused and future proof?
Definitely. Noemi, thank you so much for your time on the DesignRush podcast. It was lovely having you here with us today. Wishing you all of the best for your endeavors. We'll be keeping an eye on that space and hoping to have you back soon again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be on here.
Curious about what top brands look for when choosing an agency? Tune into our latest episodes where we reveal the decision-making secrets of leading brands. Subscribe to the DesignRush podcast and stay ahead of the competition.